Hello and welcome back to Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast. Anyone watching the YouTube video will see we are talking football. I am joined by my fellow desperate, sad Manchester United buddies. You'll see Liam, Ali and Jay on the screens. If you're listening, you won't see them, but you'll hear from them very soon. Before we get into the chat, don't forget, if you are watching us on YouTube, please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. If you can leave a comment, we want to encourage people to leave a comment. Anyone who leaves a comment will be entered into a prize draw. Once you have left 3 comments on 3 separate videos, your name will go into the draw and there will be a cash prize at the end of that. So that's in 3 podcast time if you leave a comment at all. If you are listening to us via Apple Podcasts or other providers such as Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. Again, please share. Scroll down below the list of episodes. It will allow you to do that. If you could leave us a written review, that would be great. Don't forget, we also have a Buy Me a Coffee page set up. Log on to www.buymeacoffee.com, search HWOM, and you can leave a small financial donation just to help towards the future of the podcast. I always say that the content will be free, and it will. But if you want to help us on our way, that would be appreciated. Right, that's that out the way. I don't know if this is going to be any more fun. I'm certainly beaten up this season. Ali Milroy, thank you for joining me again. Sorry to put you through this. How tough is it being a Man United fan at the minute?
I don't think it gets any tougher, to be quite honest, Stu. I was watching it last night, and I was in the chat talking to someone else as well, and I said, honestly, I've been supporting us, probably watching us 50 years, roughly 50 years, and I cannot remember a more gutless performance than that. And lo and behold, 2 minutes later, what did Gary Neville come out and say? Exactly the same thing. And this was 42 years, I think.
Well, we're about to have to get Gary on the podcast. Jay, obviously we see each other most days in the work office, so to speak. And we discuss our plight quite often. It's no fun, mate, is it?
Not at all. Cool. That was hard viewing last night, wasn't it? I mean, it's been hard all season. I mean, even the games we've won, we haven't won successfully.
Yeah.
Looking at the last games, what did they say last night? 4 out of the last 13 we've won, and some of those opposition, we should be well cruising 4th and going for 3rd.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was pretty depressing watching last night.
I should probably put my hands up and have a bit of accountability. I did, for the first time in a long time, switch off at half time. So if you want to leave a comment and you're not a Man United fan, there's an easy comment to hit me up with. Liam, yeah. Liam, we'll come to you, not last, because we'll be coming to everyone over the next hour or so, but just talk me through how it is for you being a Man United fan. No, we don't expect sympathy, do we? There's people, there's lots of, but it's not fun, is it? Football sport's meant to be fun, and watching Man United isn't.
I know. I think it's knocking about 20 years off my expected lifespan the way it's going at the moment. But that last night, honestly, that was harder to watch than being sat 2 from behind the goal in the Stretford end earlier on in the season when we lost 5-0. That was worse to watch last night. And it was just like, at 1-0, 5 minutes into the game, it just looked like they'd surrendered. They knew they were going to lose, and there was just no desire to get back in it, really, was there?
No, and I think as maybe fans of other clubs might say, "Well, welcome to our world," but I sat there and I think we knew that was going to happen. We honestly knew, and people at work had said to me and Jay that, you know, it'll be your cup final, you'll put up a fight. And I think for me, at the end of this pretty abysmal season, I don't think our club gave me any indication, or I had no faith in them putting up a performance, even if it was against who are Liverpool. And I do regard them as our arch rivals. For me, you know, I've my age, I didn't really grow up with the big Leeds rivalry. I probably missed that a bit. And obviously City have come on the scene in recent years. But for me, it's, you know, an 80s kid. Liverpool has been that club that we've always had battles with, but I see them as our big rivals. So Mr. Royden, Mr. Anyone else, you know, Mr. Kinley down in Wales, enjoy your moment listening to us suffering. Let's outline what we're going to talk to today, guys, because we're going to go over some sort of current club issues. We've been doing that for recent podcasts, but what we're going to eventually have a look at is some signings since the Glazers took over. I think, Ali, in the previous podcast, you mentioned that the Glazers seem to have come in and made one big marquee signing, I think you described it as, each year, and sort of sat back and been happy with that. Today, we probably won't get into maybe what you meant, because you may have been suggesting in more recent times. We will actually get into some of Alex Ferguson's last signings, but they were signed under the Glazer reign. But we'll get to that later. We've got some other great content. The boys are all going to outline who they would keep at the club. I've allowed them to make a list of players they would have starting the first game of next year, and they're allowed to keep 2 players in the squad who might not necessarily start the first game next year, but would be on the bench. So that might be interesting. That could be particularly brutal. Let's talk about, well, not even recent performances, but current league positions. Let's go to Jay, because I think it'd be good start on this one. How is, Jay, it doesn't look like we're going to make Champions League, let's be honest. How does that affect us going into next year? We'll get on to the potential new manager going forward. You might want to touch on that. But if we don't get into the Champions League next year, does that affect what a potential new manager is going to be able to do in the transfer market?
Yes, in many ways. And I think it might be, I'll get shot down for this probably, but it might be a blessing in disguise in some ways, because I think we need to start signing players and turning them into stars again like we used to, rather than signing these superstars that might not want to come when, they want to come Man United, come Man United. Don't come in just because we're in the Champions League. We've got too many players there that just, it means nothing to them. There's no fighting us, not only last night, especially last night, but there's no fighting us in any game against Norwich. As soon as they scored that goal, everything goes. It's just as if they've never played football before.
I mean, that Norwich performance, I only saw the extended highlights, but from what I saw, it could have easily gone 3-2 to Norwich at one point, couldn't it?
But again, we relied on David De Gea, he pulled off a fantastic save. But I mean, of course we've got to still go for it. It is still possible. Arsenal got to play Tottenham. I think Arsenal got to go Chelsea, Tottenham have got to go Chelsea. But that means we've got to start winning games, and we've just not been winning games. And, you look back at our recent results where we were winning against Burnley and lost or drew that, the Villa game, similar things. 2 goals up. Man United have always been, that's us, done. Lock the game up. Go for it if we have to, but all in a controlled manner. We've got no control, no heart, no fight, and above all, like I said in other podcasts, what Fergie's always demanded, hunger.
Yeah.
There's probably 4 players in that whole squad. I don't mean the thing. And it was just one nice thing to see that Hannibal come on last night and actually play like the shirt was on his back.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's
probably lucky not to get sent off, but
well, yeah. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere, but we'll avoid that. Ali, I won't come to you with the same question because we've got a lot of content, so we haven't got time to go over sort of everyone's opinion on everything. But I touch on the fact that it is going to be a new manager. We think it's going to be Ten Hag coming in from Ajax. How do you see the setup, or what I'm trying to say is Ten Hag comes in, he brings some people with him. Is there either any of our current staff? There's 2 guys sitting on the bench with Ranić. He's got Mick Phelan, a sort of a club legend, and he's got Chris Armas, the American. Do either of them stay, Ali, for you?
Well, what I think, he's got to bring in his own men, because I can't comment on some of these people that Rangnick's brought in, the Americans and stuff. I don't know enough about them to say really, but
yeah.
All I hope is that when he's had his interview, negotiations with the board, that he's said to them, you let me come in, I'm doing it my way. You're not going to push me around. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to have my say from the top downwards, transfers, staff. and I just hope that's the proviso he's given to come in. And
yeah,
I like to think he's big enough. If they don't give him that he doesn't come to us.
Yeah, and Louis van Gaal, we should have probably mentioned our thoughts go out to him in his sort of battle with cancer. He said in the press, didn't he, that
he did. He
described Man United as a commercial club, potentially something along the lines of a Tottenham Hotspur that we've discussed previously, where Mr. Levy very successfully runs it as a business. And his manager's wishes and wants are certainly second fiddle, aren't they?
I had to agree with what he said there, really. You know, he described us as a commercial club, not a football club, didn't he, really?
Yeah.
And there's some truth in that.
Definitely. Thanks for that, Ali. Let's go down to Liam. Rangnick's going to be going upstairs. That looks sort of confirmed, really, doesn't it? How does that sit with you, Liam? It's probably it's unfair to judge him, really, because the squad haven't performed like you like anyone would want them to, and the squad seem to be performing as badly as they did under Ollie. Can we judge Ralph's effort so far, and do you see him being successful upstairs? What does he bring? What does he offer? What does he bring to the table in that role for you, Liam?
Well, I think you can't blame him for the way that we've been performing, the last few weeks, months, whatever. It's not his fault. He's basically there just to plug a gap, really, just until they can get the man that they want to come in on a more permanent basis. So I think him moving upstairs is the right role for him. He's more suited, from what I've read about him, he's more suited to being in a technical role, more of an advisory position, rather than this full-on, hands-on managerial position and dictating everything that happens. So I think it will probably work out better for him and hopefully better for the club if he's in this more technical advisory role going forward, once we've got a new manager. So hopefully it works out for him.
I have read that there is a train of thought that he will be quite useful with regards to sort of negotiating transfers and having access to, a few agents and a few sort of ears around the transfer market. So again, it's not confirmed who is coming in. Jay, sort of one final point on this before we get to one of the main sort of bulky points of today. Pochettino and other such sort of names were mentioned. Would you be happy, Jay, with the idea of the Dutchman coming in with what he's been doing at Ajax? It is described often as a bit of a farmers' league, whether people like that or not. But is it more about that style of play that he's hopefully going to bring with him?
I think so. And apparently he's very good at getting average players better. He's very good at bringing youth through. And we've got plenty of average players, let's be honest. But, I mean, look what he's done with Dusan Tadic and the fella that West Ham had up front. I can't remember his name now. The West Ham's record sign. But anyway, he scored 35 goals or something.
Haller.
Haller, yeah.
That's done very well.
Got them playing, clearly. But we have got a lot of youngsters that we've got to either get into the side or they're going to have to let them go and play football. I mean, I made a note somewhere here of some of the youngsters. You've got Garner at Forest pulling up trees. Got it at Hannibal last night, Elanga. Ganercho is supposed to be very, very promising. Mengi, Chong and Shortire, all mentioned all the time. So if he can bring some of those into the first team picture and see what happens, maybe if he's as good as what they say is getting the blend of youth and...
Yeah.
I think that's what we've got to do. That's what we've always done. This buying superstars comes with baggage, comes with problems. Let's turn our players, like I said earlier, into proper players again. And I think he's got to go for it with him. Go for it.
And are we... Let's sort of close this off here. Give me a couple of word answers, Ali and Liam. Are we happy as supporters to... If that's the approach, are we happy with that approach? If it means a couple more lean years, but we can see some proper direction, and are we happy with that, Liam?
Yeah, I'm happy with that because growth is vital. So, that's what we need. It's not going to come overnight, is it? So I'm happy to wait and just see how it goes if that's the way it has to be.
And Ali, are you happy to give Ten Hag a couple of years? But we need, well, for me, it needs the full backing of the club. He needs the backing in the transfer market.
I think it's a good combination having Rangnick going upstairs and having him working with Ten Hag, because Rangnick's his own man, isn't he? And he's going to back him, and he's going to help him to make those big decisions that I think our managers don't get the backing at the moment. So I think as a combination of the two, I think it's a good combination.
Great stuff. Let's get to, I want to call this a sort of a fun part of the chat. It's probably not going to be overly fun. But Ali, you dropped into the WhatsApp chat the other day, suggested if we all sort of come up with a list of players we want to sort of keep at the club, players you think would be worthy of wearing the shirt next year. And I suggested that you all come up with a list of only players who you want in that starting 11 next year who are currently at the club. I mean, it could be none. You could have 8 or 9. Ali, it was your idea, and then allowed you to keep 2 players who you might not start on the pitch for that first Premier League game next year, but players that you might keep at the club. You see some promise. So, Ali, it was your idea. So let's get your big chopping board out and you sharpened your axe. Who is staying at Man United?
This was really tough. And I mean, I think I've got to do it on a proviso of staying fit to a certain extent. Now, I had to have David De Gea staying,
Of course. I think
on
that's
this season. He was one of the first on my list. The second one, providing he gets back where he has been, has got to be Bruno Fernandes, because he has got the X factor. And providing he gets that back, he has to stay. And I'd have to say Cristiano, if his fitness stays, he's got to stay really, and be part of next season anyway. And after that, I'm struggling. I am really struggling to say who makes the first 11.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, do you, Rafa Varane? What's he done for you?
My 2 that. Again, very much subject to fitness. If you could guarantee Varane 20, 25 games, he would play. But what's he played this year? 15?
I haven't got the stats in, but it wouldn't be any more, would it?
The worry is, that his club, Madrid, have sold him, haven't they? They don't normally sell their best players, do they? Did they know something about his fitness record?
Yeah, maybe they offloaded Ramos and maybe thought he wasn't going to be quite the player without his old mate.
Quality on the pitch with the proviso he stays fit.
Yeah,
and this one I would say would be Jadon Sancho, providing the new manager gets the best out of him.
So with that's your I mean, that's what we want. We want brutal honesty, Ali. So you are not quite happy, but that is of the current state of the side. Really, you only see De Gea, Bruno, Cristiano, Varane, and Sancho with a proviso that they're fit, being in that starting 11.
As defenders makes the first 11 next season.
Yeah.
Not
okay. Let's go down to Liam. Liam, have you got a longer list, shorter list, or?
A little bit longer, maybe, but yeah, as Ali touched on, obviously De Gea's got to make every list, hasn't he? Really, there's no question about him. I sort of went through the positions and sort of looked at it positionally. So, in terms of defenders, if I was to keep one of our defenders, Luke Shaw would be the only one.
Yeah.
I'd say keep Luke Shaw because, he's not had the best season, but he's got the promise to bounce back from it and maybe come back better next season, hopefully. Yeah. Defensive midfield, I mean, I'd never thought I'd say this, but Fred.
Okay.
I'd say in terms of most improved player of the season, I'd say it'd be Fred because at the start of the season, he didn't start too great, but recently he's just looked more of an attacking threat. His passing so much better, winning the ball back, excellent. So maybe I'd like to see what he's got to offer with the right midfield partner.
Okay. And Jay's always, we've come not into it, but Jay's always talked about potentially seeing him in a more forward position up the pitch. So that could potentially be another option, couldn't it?
Yeah. With it's been apparently confirmed today that Pogba's definitely going, so that frees up that position for Fred maybe then there.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone before we sort of ask you for your 2 squad players? Anyone else that you'd keep in this or have in that starting 11 potentially?
Bruno and Sancho.
Yeah,
definitely. Ronaldo, hopefully stays, but he's one that's fitness depending. Could be his last season of football. I'd like to see him end his career on a high at Old Trafford.
And obviously thoughts to Cristiano and his
Absolutely.
family. I don't suppose he will listen to this or watch it, but tragic times. No more we can say.
Nice
about
touch
that.
by Liverpool last night, wasn't it? The applause.
It was.
Yeah.
Very classy. Very classy.
Yeah. Well done, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Couple of players you'd sort of keep around the club, not necessarily in the first 11, Liam.
I've got 2. The first one for me is Jesse Lingard.
Oh wow, okay.
I think we'd be after his loan performance at West Ham. I think we'd be stupid to let him go. I think we need to keep him around.
Okay.
And I've got mates that support West Ham, and they've said that not keeping hold of him was a massive blow for them, even though they're doing well themselves. Not having him stay was a massive blow for them. So, I think there's something there. I think, he was probably our best player on the pitch last night until Hannibal came on. But, I'd keep him around. And the other one would be Lingard, because he's obviously got something to offer for the future.
Yeah.
He's the one that's obviously going to grow into it, and hopefully it works well and we'll keep hold of him.
No, that's you're not sort of far off my line of thinking with all those choices there, Liam. Let's go to Jay. I mean, a couple of points in our podcast. I mean, I think if I'd asked Jay this a couple of podcasts ago, we might have thrown them all overboard. So, Jay, hit us up with your list, mate.
I'll be very quick because the lads have said most of the things anyway, but I'd keep De Gea, which is a big turnaround for me. I'll hold my hands up. Loved it, at me again. Fred, I think he's been our best player this season. I'll get shot out for that as well, I suppose. Sancho, not so sure on Bruno, but yeah, he's got, as Ali said, it's no point repeating it. He has got he's done it. He's been there and done it. Ronaldo, I think you've got to leave that to him and the new manager. The new manager might think he's going to be a bit of a kind of maybe say, getting in the way of other things. That's
a really sort of valid point, actually, isn't it, Jay? Because Cristiano, he's nothing's bigger than a football club. But if anyone potentially is, Cristiano Ronaldo is as big as it gets commercially, as away from the club, social media wise. He is a spotlight, isn't he?
Yeah, it just comes with so much baggage. Everything revolves around it. It's front page news, back page news. It's like Beckham, but 20 times bigger.
Yeah.
And, I love him to bits. And like Liam said, I like him personally. I would like to see him go because he is capable of doing what he's done the last couple of games when we needed help.
Yeah.
Where would we be now? But I would understand if he's going to be kind of getting in the way of things, get moving forward. And he may look at it, not in the Champions League, go to America or something like that himself. You don't know. I mean, his life's changed, as you said. He might not. I think, question mark on him, but yeah, not many of them, I'm afraid.
Who would you keep around the club, but not necessarily on the pitch to start next season, Jay? A couple of players you've got a soft spot for who you think deserve a little bit of an extended contract?
No
one.
Only the youngsters. I think we've got a lot of problems. Guys I mentioned earlier. I think use them as the guys that we float the squad with. The others they've had too many options, too many chances, too many different managers that they've let down. It's time to go.
Mm.
Whether it's that or injury problems that unfortunately like Varane. I think, he's a quality player, but, if you're only going to get 10, 15 games a season out of him, it's pointless.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I haven't got a list in front of me, but I think, well, De Gea definitely stays for me. Like Jay just touched on, actually, I would say that by keeping Cristiano, as huge a fan of him as I am, by keeping him, we're not going to win the league next year. Let's be brutally honest. I think a new manager might just be better for everyone involved. If he wasn't there, because I'd love to see him banging in the goals, but I personally think he might just be too much of a distraction. I'd agree with Liam about Luke Shaw. I don't know what it is about Luke Shaw. I have a little soft spot for him, and I just can't quite let that World Cup performance go, and how good he was. But then I might regret saying that at the first podcast of next season, or the 3 podcasts in next year, when he's been absolutely dog shit again. I like Fred. Bruno, I'd be a cheerleader for him for a while, but my patience is wearing very thin with him, if I'm honest. He's given me the ump a bit. The man is obviously talented. He came to Man United and sort of seemed like he wanted to become a club legend, and he looks to be getting a bit big for his boots, in my very humble opinion. Obviously, Sancho. For me, I can see Mr. Elanga being a regular starter next year. So I definitely keep him. But like Jay said, the youngsters weren't really sort of involved in this conversation, that they'll all hang around. I like the idea of Chong coming back from Birmingham, playing in a very average side, certainly putting performances in at the start of the year, not seeing so much now. I haven't done enough research to know if he's actually getting a lot of minutes or not. To keep at the club for me, I would keep Fred, and I would probably keep Scott McTominay, Ali's favourite combination. I don't know why. I wouldn't keep them with the vision of ever playing them together, really, but I think they've both got a bit to offer going forward. There you go.
Just to say on Luke Shaw, I like Luke Shaw. I think he's a great player, but again, it's the proviso that was a really bad injury he suffered, wasn't it? And that's flared up again now. He's had like the metal removed from his legs again. And I just worry that he's ever going to get back to the peak that he was. If he was at the peak where he was at his best, I would pick him definitely. But jury's out, isn't it, on him? Again.
I think the thing is, though, guys, would any of them get into the Liverpool or City teams? And if they are no, they're no good.
No.
But this is what we've got to look for.
If we want the club to, it's sad, we're almost talking about the club in a sinking Titanic kind of a way, a ship that's sinking without hope. That's what it feels like at the minute. That will make people chuckle again. But if we want to return to that, sorry, there's some shouting in the background. That sort of place where we were, right at the top of the tree, then it's going to take a hell of a lot, isn't it? And sorry, my mind's gone completely blank then, guys. Let's move forward to what is going to sort of be the longer part of the chat. It's an idea we sort of came up with together. We're going to talk about some signings. Again, I think it was going back to sort of Ali's suggestion about some of the marquee signings, and I had a little idea that maybe we could talk about some signings over the year, a few signings each podcast. It'll give us something to do in the off season, and sort of come up with a consensus amongst the 4 of us if we think the signings were successful, not so successful, or something a bit in the middle. And today it's probably going to be more successful than not, because we'll be going back to sort of the 05-06 season when the Glazers took over. Alex Ferguson Sir Alex was still in charge. And the first one we're going to talk to was, his debut was a shocker, Ali. He made a debut, the same debut that Patrice Evra made.
He did.
I can't remember if they both came off, or I think Evra certainly came off at some point. But it's Nemanja Vidic. I've got Matic written down in front of me, but it is Vidic. So signed in sort of 05-06, 9.45 million from Spartak Moscow, Ali. I don't think many of us had heard much about him, but talk us through your thoughts on him as a player, his career at Man United, and then once we've all shared a sort of a view on him, we'll decide what we think, whether he was a success or not.
Nemanja, whoa, Nemanja, whoa! you don't see him, players like him now. You know, just compare him to Maguire. You know, he was fantastic, and he had a partnership, didn't he? He had the partnership with Ferdinand, and that really did work, didn't it? He was the one who'd run through a brick wall for you. He'd head everything. He'd win every ball alongside a Rolls Royce like Ferdinand. I think centre-backs are about partnerships, aren't they? And his partnership was the best, wasn't it, with Ferdinand? He didn't cost us a lot. And the fans loved him. He was a terrorist star, wasn't he? It's just the fact that he would put everything on the line for United, and you know, probably underrated with the ball at his feet as well. You know, he could use the ball as well. So one of our best ever signings, and I think he contributed to a hell of a lot of our success in that partnership with Ferdinand.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got the stats in front of me. 211 appearances, 149 wins. I mean, there's 27 losses in there, but Jay, he won the Premier League 5 times, Player of the Season twice, but that's quite a phenomenal stat, Jay. 211 appearances, 149 wins. He was some player, Jay, and that partnership with Ferdinand was outstanding. The glory years for us, we were probably spoilt in those years as fans. I'm not going to apologise for that, but give us some thoughts on Nemanja Vidic, Jay.
Here about buying players and turning them into stars. We hadn't heard from you. Just said we hadn't heard from him really, and we'd take 10 more of him now, wouldn't we? I mean, he is exactly the epitome of what we haven't got. Like, he's the opposite. He's got the fight. He's got the aggression. He's got the hunger. He put his face in where people wouldn't put their boots, and there are players around like that still. But we just shied away from looking for those. And I think Sir Alex has got to take a bit of blame for that, because when he left, the same year he was leaving, Vidic, Ferdinand, and Evra were all going.
Yeah.
Fantastic player, captain, proper captain material. And this is going back to what Kane said before, is we need leaders all over the pitch, and he certainly was one of those.
Well, I mean, you can't argue with that. And you and Ali have both managed to talk sort of for a couple of minutes on a player there, and neither of you have sort of mentioned the same point there, which probably goes to say there's a lot more to be said about him than we can sort of squeeze into this podcast. Let's go to Liam. Liam, probably like myself, I'd been a Man United fan for a while, but I was at my peak of going out and enjoying football in the pub with my mates. A lot of them were Liverpool fans, and there was me with Man United winning everything. We had Vidic and Ferdinand, and what a time that was to be a Man United fan, Liam.
Absolutely. I feel like I was very spoiled growing up at the time I did. Sort of, you know, early 90s, you know, that's when we started to enjoy success, and I was lucky enough to grow up the whole time, all the way through the successful years. And it's only now, you know, sort of getting into this stage of my life, it's all started going downhill.
That's what Man United will do to people at the minute.
Yeah. I haven't got any greys yet, so I'm all right.
But if we just before we sort of wrap up the chat on Vidic, because I have got these, they're only the Premier League stats in front of me. They're accessible to everyone. I'm not being a clever bollocks here, but something that sort of Ali touched on. All right, there's 211 appearances, but accurate long balls, 902 long balls in that.
Underrated.
It's duels won, headed clearances 2,232, last man tackle. You know, all the numbers stand out. It would suggest he was a bully of a defender, really. I think if he doesn't have to play against Fernando Torres ever again, he's a Premier League great, really, isn't he? Can you qualify to be a Premier League great in 211 appearances? For me, I think you can.
Absolutely.
A club great. I think it's easy, this one, isn't it? It was a bit of a shooting goldfish in a bowl, if you want. It was an easy one, but I think we can say that he was a successful signing.
One rendition. He came from Serbia, Ilkimurdia, Nemanja. Whoa, Nemanja. There you go.
And Ali's first album will be coming out soon.
One thing you missed about was the goals he scored from corners as well.
Yeah.
He was great at coming up for corners and scoring loads of headers. I mean, we don't get that with defenders now, do we?
No, I mean, 15 goals it says he's got here. I think this is just league stats, I would assume. Yeah. So there's probably a few more in there. But I mean, again, that's amazing, really. 211, he's only sort of lost 27 games. I mean, Harry Maguire's probably racked that up this year.
Bruce and Pallister, look at the goals they notched up as well. Same thing.
Bruce was a similar player to Vidic.
Yeah.
It's just, Vidic was a bit more mobile, but
Bruce would get you 10 goals a season. Yeah,
21 one season.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another player, Ji-sung Park Ji-sung, whichever way around we want to put it. A £6.5 million signing from PSV in 05-06. I've only got the Premier League stats in front of me, so that might be a little bit misleading because we know that Fergie, he was a big game player, a bit like Fergie would use sort of Darren Fletcher a bit further down the line for me. He would come into the big game. So these stats I've got in front of me might not be 100% accurate because he played those big European games. He might not necessarily play the round robin games in the European Cup, Ali, but
yeah. I did a bit of research on Park. I picked out his games, probably his biggest game, Champions League semi-final, Arsenal, 2009, and he scored in that game. And
right.
I think it was 3-1. We were 1-0 up first leg, scored 3-1, then obviously went into the Champions League final. But wouldn't you just love to have him playing in the side nowadays for Park,
He was a huge favourite player of mine, massive favourite. And I was fortunate enough to actually see him. When I was in Holland, we went to see him when he went back to PSV. And we went to watch a PSV Ajax match, and he was on the pitch. So that was sort of a bit of a treat for me in 2013. That would have been. Yeah. But just again, probably a bit like you said, a bit of a fan or terrace favourite, Ali. He came in and he did exactly what he said on the tin, didn't he?
He did, yeah. And he was box to box as well, and he just never. You look at the running stats for the United side now, and it's a joke, isn't it? Yeah. You look at Ji-sung Park, what he used to do, it was just wow, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. Mm. If we go to Jay, he was never going to win. He was never going to win Player of the Year, was he? Well, he might well have done. Let's check. He didn't. No, I don't think he did. But potentially because he didn't feature week in, week out. But he was a player that the manager rated. He came in for the big games. Anything that you remember that really stands out for you, Jay?
It was hugely underrated in a lot of the time because, as you said earlier, he didn't play in all the league games. He didn't play in certain games. But give it a big game, if it was a Champions League game of any kind of knockout stage, he'd always be in there. Always. Yeah. And some of those games running up to the Champions League finals we had, as Ali said, the semi-final against Arsenal, but some other games in that year, he was just outstanding.
Yeah.
Hugely underrated, really. I can't say any more than that. I mean, again, you'd settle for half a dozen of him at the moment, wouldn't you?
Oh, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it was a funny in a sense because, I mean, I seem to remember when he signed, we thought we might be getting a wide player almost, not necessarily a tricky, skillful winger, but a wider player. And then towards the end of his time at United, he was picked in those big games to almost do a sort of man marking job on some players.
Yeah.
And that was just probably down to his discipline and his energy levels that allowed him to adapt to the role that was necessary. Again, Liam, he would have been featuring in that sort of period that you described as being very spoiled as a Man United player. Never disappointed to see his name on the start sheet, were you?
Never, ever, no. And as you say, even though he wasn't a regular starter, if you knew he was in that, he was on that team sheet there, you knew it was a tactical decision. He loved playing against Arsenal. That's one thing I always remember. He loved playing against, he always turned up against Arsenal. One way to describe him would be industrious.
Yeah.
You always got maximum work rate out of him, you know, box to box. He was everywhere. He never stopped running the whole time. He could create, he could finish, you know, and when you needed him, you know, for that comeback, make a last-ditch tackle, he'd be there. So, yeah, it was a shame when we lost him, but what a great player he was for the club.
So, again, probably it's fair to say, although he won't go down as a club legend, I don't think, but he will always be fondly remembered. But, again, a successful signing, one that you can't really argue with. We'll look back fondly on him. Jay, let's move on to season 07-08. And a few years back, we'd signed a promising young Portuguese player by the name of Cristiano Ronaldo from Sporting Lisbon. And we went back to Sporting to sign another promising young winger by the name of Nani. We paid pretty much 23 million for him. He was, for me, I'll start there. He was an infuriating player for me. I have some memories, like Liam just touched on, of him, a few performances against Arsenal and a few performances against Liverpool. But I look back on his time at United. For me, slightly wasted talent. Drove Fergie round the bend at times, got himself in trouble quite early on with his choice of celebrations, didn't he? Jay, give us your thoughts on Nani.
Oh, it's frustrating, as you just said. I think he was a little bit unfairly judged because he had Ronaldo in the same team, you know, and just after Ronaldo left. So you kind of looked at him as, oh, why don't you do that? Why can't you do that? He was a very skillful player, was excellent in some games.
Yeah.
But I think overall, probably flat to deceive a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you remember that Arsenal game where we played in the black shirts with the blue V across the front, the away kit. He absolutely ripped them apart.
Yeah.
So, fantastic. And, you know, he did have these games. I mean, the game he got sent off against Real Madrid, Old Trafford, he was having a good game before that. Never got sent off. I mean, even Mourinho admitted it at the time. But, yeah, I think overall as a success, probably not, but had some good games and good times watching him.
Yeah. Let's go to Liam next. Liam, he's 147 appearances in the league, 26 goals, good win percentage, but he was in a very good side. Is it unfair to compare him? Ronaldo at that time wasn't banging the goals in, but I mean, just looking at those stats alone, from a forward player with the skill set and that shot and the ability that he obviously had, you'd want a few more goals, really. But your memories of him as a player, Liam?
I mean, there was a lot of pressure on him, you know, to perform at the same level as Ronaldo because they both come from the same club, both happen to be Portuguese, you know. I mean, yeah, like you say, he was a lot of the time he was infuriating and he wasn't up to the standard of Ronaldo. But when you got him on a good day, you had a great player there that could do, you know, you could do amazing things, but not consistent enough for me, to be honest.
Do you think he maybe suffered because of Cristiano? Then he came in with the weight of expectation was a bit too high.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it. You know, I mean, the hope was that they'd sort of grow off each other and, you know, sort of learn, you know, he'd learn a bit from Cristiano because he was a bit older than him. But, you know, it never sort of came about, really, did it?
Not quite. Ali, the boys have sort of have suggested that he didn't quite fulfill his potential. He came in. I mean, I think back that time, 26 million was a fairly hefty price tag. Do you feel the same as the guys? We could have done better.
You just use one of my words, 2 words for him: unfulfilled potential. Really.
Yeah.
He flattered to deceive United, didn't he? All the talent in the world, unfulfilled potential. He went on and did it. He actually got a bit better when he left United, didn't he? When he played for Valencia, had a couple of good years for them, didn't he?
I can't remember, if I'm honest.
Maybe he was smaller fish in a bigger pool. Is that the right word? Yeah, rather than being United, where he was a big fish in a small pool.
Yeah.
Other way round. But no, unfulfilled potential.
He was at Orlando, wasn't he? Was he at Orlando?
Been out there.
And he's back in Italy now, isn't he? He's at Venezia. Yeah, he's gone back to, I think it's Venezia this year, maybe, or the other one of the last year's promoted sides. So let's where are we gonna put him in the fair to middling, or would we call him unsuccessful, Ali?
Unfulfilled potential. Would like to have seen more from him.
Yeah, that's probably Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's quite good. Let's fast forward to 2011, 12, and this will probably make a few people laugh because he's still on the books. And he played last night. Mr. Phil Jones, he came in for 17.37 million from Blackburn Rovers. So Alex said he was going to be potentially the next long-term club captain for Man United. You told me a quote yesterday, didn't you, Jay? He was the best English prospect since
Duncan Edwards.
Duncan Edwards.
That's Fergie's words.
Wow, Fergie's words. So
yeah. There's
some talent.
I've got a fact for you. Sorry, I was just going to say, in was it 2011? I think it was round about then, wasn't it, when he started?
11-12 we signed him.
Yeah. He got the number 4 shirt in 2011, and he's still bloody got it.
Yeah. Well, does that say something about the quality of the centre backs that we haven't signed?
It does.
Yeah. Jay, talk to us about the decade-long serving Mr. Phil Jones. I mean, he's been with us a decade. Let me just get it up here. In that decade, he's not notched up a huge amount of performances. But what are your thoughts on Phil Jones? There's been some injuries in those 10 years.
He's won titles.
Sorry?
He's won titles.
Yeah, he's only won one.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, in 12-13.
Yeah, of course, he came in 11. Again, he came with what Fergie said, all that potential. I've not really seen too much of it, to be honest. He always looks like he's struggling a little bit for fitness at that level. And we've all seen the funny photographs and everything, but it's what I mean. It always seems to be a struggle for him on the pitch a little bit. I feel sorry for him. Been a good servant. He's always been there. He's always willing to roll his sleeves up, but it's part of the problem.
I saw him last night being hauled off at half time.
Yeah, well, wasn't his fault. It could have been any of the system.
Could have been any. Yeah.
But he's never really let everything go down too much. But is he the kind of standard we want to move forward? No.
Liam, probably. I mean, me and Jay were chatting yesterday, and sort of Jay commented on the reasonable sort of partnership he formed with Chris Smalling for a period of time in between those injuries. He's been the butt of a lot of jokes across the social media, and yesterday's treatment maybe was a bit unfair on him. He's been a servant to the club. I'm not going to say a good servant, but he hasn't let himself down in any way. Perhaps his talent was just slightly misjudged by our greatest ever manager.
Well, that's it. Fergie can't get everything right, can he? You know, he's got to be wrong once in a while. And, you know, like you say, he's been a loyal servant. He's stuck around. You know, he's done what's been asked of him, but just not to the standard of United, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that might be a bit harsh, but Calamity Jones is what I used to call him.
Well,
he's had a few woeful performances, hasn't he? And the many faces of Phil Jones that you see all in these memes and everything.
Oh, well, Ali, a few final words on Phil Jones, or have we said enough?
I think we've probably said enough.
Yeah, let's leave him alone.
We've still got that shirt, though.
Yeah. Right. Finally, before we've got we're going to come to Jay. He wants to talk us through a few things in a minute. I have Wilf Sahar as the fifth person down to talk about, and being a bad podcasting host, I didn't do my research. I didn't realise that Wilf Sahar really didn't actually play at all for Man United. I mean, it's with the stats in front of me. We've got two appearances in 13 and 14. And that's it, really. I was quite shocked to learn that. Maybe there's some cup games in there that I'm not seeing on the Premier League stats. But I think he's worth discussing in the fact that he was signed again. He was Ferguson's last signing, did you tell me, Jay?
Yeah.
That's right.
And then...
Last signing, and I think, personally, he is ideal for United. You know, what he's done at a small club like Palace, he is an ideal player for United.
Is he? Yeah, I mean, Ali's just, we don't want to get too confused with fishes in ponds. Was the Man United pond a bit too deep for him, Ali?
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
I mean, there was rumours. We don't want to get in any legal disputes. There was rumours that he may be doing something with managers' daughters that he shouldn't be.
He did leave under a cloud, didn't he? Was the rumour?
Yeah, he left like he was fired out of a cannon, didn't he?
He did.
And I just thought it might make an interesting conversation, because looking at what he has now done at Crystal Palace, you think maybe if we'd signed him, say 4 years down the line, it's easy for me to say that. I mean, we could be dealing with a Man United regular now, you know, really having that left side of midfield sort of nailed down, no problems, plenty of years left in the tank. Let's go to Jay, because we're sort of we're going along on time, racing along here. Jay, there was you've put together a little list, haven't you? Want to discuss with us before we sign off?
Looking for the Glazer signings, I won't bore you with all of them, but I've found this. These are players that we've signed since Fergie left the club.
Yeah,
and they aren't at the club anymore.
Okay.
But we got Fellaini, Di Maria, Daley Blind, Depay, Schneidlin, Schweinsteiger, Herrera, Lukaku, Dan James, Matteo Darmian, Rojo, Mkhitaryan, and the worst one, Alexis Sanchez. Right now they've left the club. I personally would say the only people with any credit that were any use to us, Daley Blind, Herrera, and Dan James. Now we can also add on to that Juan Mata, Paul Pogba, Nemanja Matic, Eric Bailey, and probably Martial. Yeah. Total cost 590 million.
What about Kagawa? Was he Ferguson, or was he after Ferguson?
He was Fergie.
Yeah, he's still knocking around in the Turkish league, I think.
Yeah.
You know, the stark shock to me was, what actual value did we get out of any of those players? Well, if you take Blind, Herrera, and Dan James out of it, no value whatsoever.
No, you look at someone like Di Maria again. Maybe it's something about those South Americans who can't grasp that language barrier for me. And I don't know if it's fair to say that, but he came in and the resume, the CV was outstanding. Sort of what you'd say someone like proven talent, you know, almost guaranteed to come in and do a job for you. And he fell flat on his face.
I don't think he wanted to come, Stu. It was just the money turned down. Then, you know, we were just throwing so much money at players then. He didn't want to come here.
No.
Yeah. Mr. Fellaini that you mentioned, sort of lastminute.com, obviously came in with Moyes, someone he could rely or a player he knew. Yeah. But sadly, potentially someone like sort of Mario Fellaini's time at Man United would mirror Mr. Moyes' time, sadly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I liked Herrera.
I was sad to see him go.
We should never have got rid of him, ever.
No.
Yeah. Good. Again, as someone who seemed to embrace the English or the UK, the English lifestyle, excellent with language, spoke wonderfully well when in press conferences. I know that doesn't do much on the pitch, but he obviously invested time in learning the language, and I was very sad to see him go.
Him captain.
I said he should have been the captain. Yeah,
he was.
And he was a fan. Again, he was a fan favourite. You know, never underestimate the United crowd. They know their stuff, don't they? And when someone's a fan favourite, they've earned it, haven't they? And he was.
Yeah,
definitely.
When I was looking this up, I read that we're still paying some money for Sanchez.
Oh.
Who is the baseball player? Is his name Bobby Bonilla or something? Who managed to wangle that 50-year contract? He gets paid $1 million. Does he get paid $1 million every start of every baseball season? And he's in his 50s and he's still got 20 years to run on this $1 million a year contract or something. Perhaps Mr. Sanchez will be he'll be sipping pina coladas well into the 2040s on the Glazers.
Unbelievable. Video came out of him playing that piano, I knew we were in trouble.
Gentlemen, we've sort of touched on an hour. Hopefully, I always enjoy these chats. They always make me smile. You guys bring so much to the table. You do your research better than I do, which is fantastic. Is there anything anyone wants to bring up? We'll get together again before the end of the season. But is there anything? Let's put it this way. This could be a very funny or short answer. Liam, is there anything to look forward to being a Man United fan for the rest of this season?
Yeah, the end of the season.
Ali?
Possibly seeing a few youngsters get some time on the pitch so we can look forward.
There you go. And Jay?
Well, try and enjoy Cristiano Ronaldo while we got him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a lot else to watch and enjoy, is there, really?
I hope that some youngsters get a go, and I just want to see it. I think Jay touched on it. I want to see that fight and that hunger. None of us like losing, but I think it's fair to say there is a way to lose, and last night wasn't the way, was it?
Definitely not.
Right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me, Liam, Ali, Jay. Don't forget, if you're watching us, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us, scroll down and give us that 5-star review. Please, please, please leave a comment in the YouTube videos. It helps them algorithms. You know, if you could like, subscribe, leave a comment. Don't forget, if you leave a comment on the next 3 videos, you'll go into that prize draw for a cash prize. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. I've been Stuart. They've been Ali, Jay, and Liam. This has been Henry Weston's Old Mate, the podcast. We've been talking Man United. We're all very sad, but we're going to smile. And we will see you all again in the near future. Cheers, gents.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.